Hi, I'm Pizzaman and welcome to Pizzaman Reviews. I was going to have an introductory video, but I put it off long enough that Rise of Skywalker came out, and I feel that takes higher priority in this case. So, I'm going to break this review into non-spoiler and spoiler. The non-spoiler little bit structured, and the actual spoilers a little bit less structured, because that's just going to be more raw feelings and whatnot about the movie. So first, going on to the non-spoiler, I have to go into the kind of basic plot. The plot, without any spoilers, is extremely basic. It's just that the First Order wants to take over the galaxy, and the Resistance wants to stop them. But yeah, sadly, it's kind of hard to go into the plot without spoilers. I mean, most people should know it by now. It's been a little bit of time. Now, there are some problems I can get into in the non-spoiler section. First, the pace is all over the place. It'll jump randomly sometimes, and you kind of get a feeling that it might have been a little bit rushed. And speaking of rushed, some of the plot lines themselves also feel a bit rushed, as if they're just hopping from one thing to the next, because there's like 3 or so MacGuffins that they have to get throughout the film, and it's just, we did this one, now on to the next thing. My overall opinion, to keep it simple, is to say that I liked the movie, and I highly recommend that you watch it and come to your own opinion, because this movie is highly divisive. It might have everything that you've ever wanted in a Star Wars movie, and it might have absolutely nothing that you thought you would want in a Star Wars movie, and those could be either really good or really bad, because it could have everything you want, but it doesn't quite strike a chord with you. It might not have been done quite the exact way you would have wanted it to, and it might not have anything that you would have wanted, but it does it in such a good way that you are extremely happy with it. It is highly divisive, but that's why I recommend that you watch it for yourself and you come to your own conclusion as to whether or not that is something that you wanted. Now, from here on out, I'm going to go into spoilers. So if you do not want to be spoiled on really anything, because I'm going to pretty much spoil almost everything going into this next bit, just talking what I liked, what I didn't like, it's going to go into a lot of spoilers. So do not continue if you do not want spoilers. But regardless, now that we're in the spoiler section, I'm going to go into some background so that you have a bit more of an understanding of what I was going into when I was going into Rise of Skywalker, the kind of mindset I was in. So I wasn't spoiled on anything, really. There were some minor things going around. After the world premiere, there was a hashtag going around, J.J. Abrams' over party, and I thought that was just a joke. I took a peek in, knowing that there was a chance that I would get spoiled, and all I saw was people pretty much saying, hey, at least The Last Jedi was good. So I thought it was just a joke, saying, no matter what, at least The Last Jedi's there, kind of doing a reverse jab at it, which I liked The Last Jedi, but I thought it was overall a joke to just kind of play on that. But then on the actual release night, the worldwide actual release, I saw some of the first reviews rolling in, and my concerns kind of began to grow as people were talking about how divisive it is and how it kind of tries to fix the previous movie or movies by doing, the reviews weren't specific, but I just heard that it was possibly trying to change things, but I still wasn't willing to fully believe it. So when I went into the film, I was worried and confused about what to expect. So I looked at it with a critical eye the entire time. So when there were twists and turns, I wasn't able to truly be immersed and get enveloped into them. And it was kind of disappointing in that way, because ever since The Force Awakens came out, I have made it an effort, since I couldn't see the originals when they first released and I couldn't see the prequels when they were first released. I made it an effort to make sure that I saw every new Star Wars movie on the day it released, and I still kept it up. And every Star Wars movie I came out of happy. But this one, I came out still kind of confused and still processing what it was that I watched. Now, this isn't to say that it was a bad movie. There are still a lot of things that I liked in it. The thing is, you can almost never make me absolutely hate a movie overall in Star Wars unless it was just 2 hours of absolute nothing and completely unrelated to anything ever to Star Wars. That would be the only way to really make me hate a Star Wars movie. With like with one of my least favorite Star Wars movies, Attack of the Clones, the thing, I hate a lot of elements of it, but overall there are still a lot of things that I like about it. So going into the things that I like about this, I will say that the main thing I liked is that it was willing to take chances. It was willing to take wild leaps and go crazy places. It was willing to subvert your expectation and go against some stuff. I liked that at the very beginning of the film, it just, bam, here's Palpatine. The only thing that I've heard be said that I absolutely 100% agree with is that it feels like it either is a sequel to a movie that doesn't exist, or it needed another movie or two in between The Last Jedi and this. And when I hear that they are moving away from trilogies now, after The Rise of Skywalker, I'm kind of willing to see why. When I first heard that, I thought, oh, so they're going to go towards single movies, individual movies now, just setting something in the Star Wars universe. Instead, I think what they might do is, instead of breaking it up purely into, we're doing a trilogy, waiting 10, 15 years, then doing another trilogy, that they'll do just storylines. Oh, this series, in order to get the story told, only needs 2 movies. This series, in order to get the story told, needs 4 movies, so that they're not limited to, we have to tell this story in 3 movies. If they had put another movie in between The Rise of Skywalker and The Last Jedi, I think this could have been a really amazing movie. The stuff that's said in the title crawl doesn't really reassure you about anything. It just doesn't quite fit what you would hope for or expect necessarily. It has potential to have reintroduced Palpatine and built him up slowly, instead of just being, if you watch these 3 movies in order, it might be super confusing, because it'll be like, boom, Snoke, Palpatine. And while they go through the effort to actually try to explain Snoke, it doesn't do it quite well enough. It just kind of glances over it. So the other thing I like is that, yes, the cast is together, but the thing I don't like about it is it seems that they're arguing almost non-stop the entire time, which is fine. And there's kind of a plot line that goes through the movie of Finn wanting to tell Rey something, but never really being able to. And I don't think it ever really truly gets resolved, at least I don't remember. According to the person that I watched the movie with, Luke said that he knew that she was a Palpatine, which is the big twist of the movie, is that Rey's heritage is Palpatine. I wasn't really surprised by this. When you're given 5 years of expectation, and you're then just given the answer, just lowballed it to you, it just kind of ends up being a bit disappointing. Especially when it then contradicts the thing said in the previous movie. They try to fix it in a very half-hearted way, like they were nobody because they wanted to be nobody. It also brings up the question of, when did Palpatine have the time? Who knows? Now on to going purely into issue. Like, I liked the movie. I liked the ships, I liked the space battles, I liked the lightsaber fights, I liked the set pieces and everything, but the problem is it moved at such a pace that you could never fully get settled into set pieces, into plot points, into, character relationships, because they're so obviously trying to resolve everything that they're pretty much trying to fit an entire trilogy in its own movie, as I've also heard said. Into the things that I really either purely didn't like or was unsure of, I'll just start with the main thing, Reylo. If they were going to do it, I would have preferred that they did it better than the way they did. Because in the movie they introduce a thing that was literally introduced the Wednesday before the movie came out. Force healing. Something that has now officially been introduced into the canon of Star Wars. Force healing. And it was first introduced in Baby Yoda in The Mandalorian. Now, after that, then to see it immediately come into Rise of Skywalker, I was like, oh, okay. That's weird timing. But they introduce it as a concept, even though it had already been introduced, and try to kind of over-explain it. But she heals a Snick, then she heals Kylo, then Kylo heals her, they kiss, he dies. Boom. That's it. The thing is, I didn't see them having that good of a relationship at all, really. Like, there's some small hints to it and whatnot, but I just don't see their relationship as being that good. Like, ooh, they're connected through the Force. Good on them. And the end of the movie, while heartwarming in a way, still just kind of leaves it open-ended, kind of. Sure, technically the conflict is over. Technically, everything should be done. But it's still technically open-ended enough that they could continue it. And hell, if they did do a movie and they actually set it between The Last Jedi and The Rise of Skywalker, I would be happy with that. If they use it to help kind of bridge the gap, I think that that would be good. Another thing that I wasn't entirely sure of is, technically throughout this entire movie, Rey has an entire attitude change. While she was kind of gung-ho in The Last Jedi, they've pretty much turned that gung-ho-ness up to 10, and they explain it away with Palpatine, blood, and anger. It just didn't entirely match fully. The other thing I wasn't really sure of was Chewbacca's fake-out death. The way that they did it was kind of like, okay, sure. Like, if they had actually... So, as I said, it's a fake-out death. He is arrested. They start going away. Rey tries to stop it by using the Force to pull it down. I thought, oh, that's kind of cool. This is kind of neat. See, Kylo comes out of his crashed TIE fighter, and then he is, pulling on the ship. Rey gets over anger and accidentally electrocutes the ship, and it blows up. And so she thinks she killed Chewbacca. But then it's almost immediately undercut by the fact that they show, oh no, he's alive. He was on another transport. And when I saw that, I was like, okay, how would this... Like, when I first saw the death, I was like, okay, so if they're actually going through with it, how does this compare to his Legends death, where he was crushed by a moon? I think the Legends death is at least more interesting. But they didn't go through with it, so, meh. I think the only thing that I was actually truly surprised about in this movie was the death of Snap Wexley. A character that, when he was first introduced in The Force Awakens, was just in the background. And he had a couple of lines, maybe. But then his character got super fleshed out in the Aftermath trilogy. A trilogy that is okay. And then he gets even further fleshed out in the book leading up to The Rise of Skywalker. Also the comics and whatnot, showing he has a wife and whatnot, and I'm like, okay. So when I saw his death, I was like, are we going to see his wife grieving? Are we going to see this? Does his wife die in the book? Why was his wife not at all acknowledged? What about his mom? I mean, Wedge is there. He appears for like 5 seconds and then is gone. It felt like it was trying to wrap everything up by cramming way too much in. But overall, it's good. If you're willing to go in with an open mind, or at the very least, go in to turn off your mind, it's a good, dumb action movie there's starfighting, there's this, that, and the other, but overall, everything's just kind of hard to get truly invested in as a Star Wars fan, because it just hops around everywhere. The best stuff, I think, was with the First Order, or as it then became the Last Order. Palpatine was interesting, didn't really do much, but he was interesting. I loved his weird zombie design. That was cool. Hux being a spy and then being immediately killed for being a spy was cool. I liked that. Kylo's switch over to the good was, supposed to be kind of a twist and whatnot. It mirrored the stuff in The Force Awakens, but overall, again, I never felt truly surprised by it. And it made me really sad that I didn't. I had hoped that I would, at some point, just all of a sudden be like, what? Because that's how I felt with The Last Jedi. With The Last Jedi, I truly felt surprised, and I was engaged the entire time. When it pulled away to do the Canto Bight stuff, it was a little bit annoying, but I was engaged the entire time because it was good. It was engaging. When you take that away, it becomes a little bit problematic. So I hope that they do something to kind of fix it in some way. Obviously, they'll come out with more books. The novelization will probably be chock full of extra stuff, and it might actually be a really interesting novelization to read. I'm excited to see what comes up next in Star Wars. Sadly, it's going to be quite a while to wait. I mean, there's all the Disney Plus stuff, which I will probably do a Mandalorian review next. Just an overall review, reviewing the entire first season. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please, if you feel so inclined, subscribe, like, share it around. That these are all helpful things. I do once in a blue moon stream on Twitch, if you would like to check that out. I have a Patreon, but don't worry about that for now. I'll probably push it more when this channel actually gets more traction. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you guys in the next review. Goodbye.